the beef bourguignon. Today I am making a very classic dish, or my version of it, beef bourguignon, which has so much heritage and culture to it. It's been made, really like in French cooking since like the beginning of time. And it is packed full of so much flavor, so much richness, so much depth, and is delicious to eat on a cold winter afternoon. So my version of beef bourguignon, I'm gonna start with the classic beef portion of what's called like the chuck steak that I've cubed into about inch-sized pieces. I also have some slab bacon that has been pre-cut into bite-sized pieces, baby carrots, the humble button mushroom. I have some pre-peeled cipollini onions. I take a little bit of boiling water, pour it over the cipollini onions, allow it to sit for about 10 minutes. And then all you have to do is snip off your end and your peels will come right off. Fresh chopped flat leaf parsley, some minced garlic, fresh herbs, thyme, rosemary, bay leaf, some organic canned tomatoes, homemade beef stock, red wine. This is like a rich red wine. I'm gonna recommend like a Burgundy or like a Côte d'Aron. And then as the sauce finishes, I have a little bit of my homemade whole grain mustard. First steps are I take my pre-cut slab bacon into a pre-warmed enameled cast iron pan, start to render out some of that fat. Immediate sizzle is great. Great trick I like to do with my beef before I sear it. Allow it to drain on like a paper towel. Also, as the meat comes to room temperature, the meat relaxes. Healthy layer of salt all over. A little more salt. Fresh cracked black pepper. All right, bacon's out, in goes my beef. Good rule of thumb here is you really want to do this in waves. You might not be able to add all of your beef in the first sear, and that's okay. So just enough to like barely cover the bottom of the pan, and we'll do this in 2 phases. Smells delicious already. So many layers of flavor. So now I have this bacon fat. I have some rendered beef fat that's in the bottom of the pan. So I'm gonna go ahead and go in with my cipollini onions at this point. Same process here. Going for a golden brown. Go in with a little fresh pepper. Okay, onions can come out. Same process, give them a drain. In go my button mushrooms. Your mushrooms, I like to add at this step in the process because your fat's not quite hot enough. When you add your mushrooms, they'll just start to absorb it. Fresh cracked pepper. We'll start to sear those till golden brown on both sides. Then I can get my baby carrots ready. Nothing too time consuming or fancy. You can see the golden brown all over. Go ahead and start to remove these out. And then the final is searing my carrots. More salt, more pepper. This won't take but a minute. My carrots are starting to char on the outside. I don't peel my baby carrots. I don't feel that the peel is bitter at all. The carrots are plenty sweet, so I like to leave that peel on there so that once you sear it like this, it really starts to like blister and wilt a little bit. At this point, I like to go ahead and drain off the bacon and beef fat. So everything's seared, kind of resting while we're going to build my sauce itself. So I'm gonna make what's called a roux, equal parts butter and flour by weight. So butter goes in, it's gonna immediately melt, start to brown. I still have all of this fond that's sticking to the bottom of the pan and around my edges here. That's great. Butter's melted. I'm gonna add my minced garlic just so I can slightly soften and saute it. This just ensures a quick cook on the garlic so that it doesn't overcook, so it doesn't become bitter. All right, flour goes in. It's gonna immediately wanna stick to the bottom of the pan. That's okay. Starting to toast and brown a little bit. Now I'm gonna go ahead and go in with my red wine. Now a good rule of thumb with your red wine is you want it to be something that you're willing to drink. I'm gonna do this in just 2 parts so that my roux doesn't clump too much. That wine deglazes, removes all the delicious fond off the bottom of the pan. Gotta scrape your edges here. So I don't want to cook my wine down too far. I'm gonna reduce it by about half. And you can see that the roux has really thickened it. That's great. At this point, in goes my fresh herbs, thyme, bay leaf, as well as my canned tomatoes. So now this has come to a boil. I'm gonna go ahead and add my beef stock. Stir that together. So at this point, I like to go ahead and go back in with all of my beef, but not with my vegetables quite yet. We're gonna let this cook for about 2 hours, and then about halfway through the process, we'll go ahead and add our carrots and our mushrooms. So I've reached my first boil. I like to give a stir, make sure nothing's sticking to the sides or the bottom of the pan. Turn my heat down, and I'm just gonna kind of slowly simmer this for the next 2 hours. 2 hours later, you can see the sauce is starting to thicken a little bit. It's reducing down. At this point, I'm gonna go in with all of my bacon, my carrots, my mushrooms, my cipollinis. It is rich, robust. All right, pause button, 2 hours. See you soon. Oh yeah. At this point, I'm about 4.5 hours into this baby. You can see my sauce is completely reduced and thick and voluptuous. You can see this beef is just like fall apart tender. So rich. So at the very end, I like to add a few optional ingredients. About a tablespoon of whole grain mustard, a good handful, this is about a half a cup of fresh flat leaf chopped Italian parsley. And I like to finish with just a splash of vinegar. Final few cracks of fresh black pepper. Oh yeah, it's thick, rich, delicious. So classically, beef bourguignon is served over like a pomme puree, potato puree, or a mashed potato. I like to serve mine with homemade grits. All of the goodness on top. Get an onion in there, carrot, mushroom, a couple big pieces of beef. All right, now we're talking. Finish with a little parsley. Beef bourguignon. Give it a taste. So the grits, sauce, fresh parsley. It is so rich. Velvety, delicious. This is exactly what I want. Like sitting by the fire on a cold winter afternoon. I might not leave the house for like 2 days afterwards, but that's okay. That's part of the deal. So from my kitchen to yours, I hope this finds its way to your table. Thanks for joining me today. Tune in for some more great content coming your way soon. Thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in today. If you're enjoying our series, please feel free to hit subscribe below so you can be the first in the loop to join us each week as we release new content. B-O-R-G. Borg. Beef Borg. That's what I made today.